university entities or even vendors like Sodexo per se, with ideas that we know are just not feasible, or just not plausible, then they're going to stop listening to us.
Are you talking about the amendment, or are you talking about the part before that?
The amendment.
Okay.
They're going to stop listening to us if we go to them with something that's rather unreasonable. And so having, like for example, the exemption process that we have right now, if you're on a vegan diet or if you're kosher, you have to give them like receipts and stuff that show huge grocery bills that like say, yeah, I spent this much money on this kind of food. And I don't see how there's a way to do such a thing by, like, I'm morally opposed to Chick-fil-A's business practices. That doesn't, there's no way I can prove that with a receipt or with any other type of documentation. And so I don't think it's really reasonable to ask Sodexo to give us that sort of exemption. But
Paul, go ahead.
A couple of points. First of all, people are talking a lot about how the first part out there that says students will get out of the meal plan. We've given us an excellent way out, and the second, be it further resolved. I agree with E-Board about that. It will never come to pass that students get out of the meal plan because of their opposition to Chick-fil-A. But that is in there because we're saying that this is a strong enough reason for students to get out of it. What's in fact going to happen is that Chick-fil-A is going to say, oh wait, or Sodexo, oh wait, we don't want that. We're going to go with option number B, which is leftover student meal plan money won't go to Chick-fil-A. It won't cut down Chick-fil-A's money they're getting at all. It's like what John said. They're just going to shift the dollars around. It's going to be dollar B instead of dollar A. But what it does send a message is that students on this campus who are opposed to Chick-fil-A's practices don't have to support them. That's all we're asking. And I know the word practicality has gotten thrown out a whole lot so far. But if you look at this amendment right here, leftover student meal plan money from those students who signed a waiver. I made the point when Mike first proposed this. Who's going to oversee the waiver? Who's going to write the waiver? How are students going to know about the waiver? When are they going to come in to sign the waiver? It adds like levels of bureaucracy to this when it doesn't need it. Because Chick-fil-A's money is not going to decrease. All it's going to require is a little bit of bookkeeping. And making students sign a waiver to protect their freedom of speech, which in the rest of the resolution it talks about why it's freedom of speech. I won't belabor the point here. But having students sign a waiver to protect their freedom of speech is distasteful to me, especially when it just increases the bureaucracy that's already there. And I don't really see a need of this amendment because it doesn't add anything to the resolution.
Mike.
Whenever I came in here tonight, I didn't come in with a full plan about how to make this amendment go through administratively. But what we're doing right here isn't actually, if we pass this, this does not become law for the university. This is our suggestion to Sodexo, and this is what we'll suggest to Sodexo, and we'll say, here's something that we think can work, and still, and is a good compromise between all of us. That's what this extra paragraph is. And to answer the signing away, or to answer, protecting the freedom of speech, if I didn't agree with, or I have to pay a student athletics fee right now, even though I don't want, or even if I don't particularly support what athletics does, if I don't support the whole thing that happened with Rick Pitino, I still pay the student athletic fee, regardless of that whole situation. What I'm doing right now is I'm not trying to water down what this resolution says. I think that it makes a very good point whenever at the very beginning of it says the student or asking for the meal plan to be waived, and then it offers a more practical solution after that. I guess ideally what I thought would happen was that in the same way that a student would request to be waived from the meal plan, they can fill out a waiver in much the same fashion that their surplus not go to support Chick-fil-A. I assume that, or I kind of assume that that's how any waiver like this would be handled, but I didn't come into this knowing full fleshed out how I would do that, as is evident by the fact that I had to have another senator word it for me. So that's just what I had to say on it.
Just so we're all caught up on where people are going, it's going to be Pooja and then John, and then I'm yielding the floor, just so everyone knows. And then Jared, Allison, Paul, Daniel, and then up top. All right, up top, then Travis. Okay, Pooja, it's you, girlfriend.
About the amendment, and I guess this goes for the rest of the resolution too, I don't agree with it. I don't think that it will. I think it's pretty much students kind of giving things kind of like meeting them halfway. And as much much as I'm like all about, oh, let's meet them halfway, I don't personally like the whole Chick-fil-A thing, their whole moral ground thing. Like, as somebody who's been a vegetarian her whole life, I can tell you that there are groups of students, and I believe Paul addressed this very well at last meeting, at the first reading, like what this moral cause is against Chick-fil-A. I know we didn't go into that detail, but there really is, like Chick-fil-A, and I forget what the details are, but there is a moral reason behind what Chick-fil-A is doing, and why students, they're a group of students. As far as proving it to the waiver committee, like that comment, they can prove that too. Like, if you're really passionate about Chick-fil-A, I don't think the waiver committee is going to be stupid enough to just be like, oh yeah, they wrote on a piece of paper that they're against Chick-fil-A and they're going to let them out of the meal plan. They're not going to do that. The waiver committee is going to be smart enough to see some kind of maybe organization that they belong to that shows their moral opposition to Chick-fil-A. So I think that this amendment is not really, I like the resolution as it was originally because I felt like it made a stand on the student point of view. And someone earlier said that this is also getting into big people politics, and I also understand that, but we're also the student government. So if we don't stand up for the minority student voice, I mean, personally, I don't want to stand up for Sodexo, I want to stand up for the students. So I feel like the rest of you guys.
John.
I don't think that we're not standing up for students by voicing opposition to this resolution. Paul, to address your point, the whole thing's bureaucracy. The entire resolution is bureaucracy because it's not using this dog, using this dog. Even though you said they get the exact same amount of funding, we're just trying to make a statement. I'm fine with the statement. I think that a statement is what we should do, but at this point, that's not what this is. This is trying to do something completely different. The opt-out will not work. Everyone will do it. I mean, they have to have criteria. So if being a part of an RSO is that criteria, then it's still just
We're still talking about I mean, it does the amendment. How
Okay, we're on the amendment. Everybody with me? We're on the amendment. You think that,
I can wait till we're.
Can you clarify, we're not on the be it further resolved, or
we're on the highlighted
Okay.
portion.
I'll just put me on.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you want me to, okay, I'm just gonna put you in. Okay, I'm yielding the floor to Dee. I'm gonna tell my opinion and then I'm gonna leave, because I gotta go. I've never been. Okay. How I feel about this, and I stay quiet during most meetings because it's my job, and if you know me, that's not easy. I'm very opinionated. The way I feel about the amendment is that if you are a student and you feel strongly enough about something, who's to say that there's not a group of students that would rally behind the cause that Chick-fil-A has? Because you can't say just because some morally oppose it that there's not a group that says, I want all of my residual money going to Chick-fil-A, and I hate every other group. You don't know that the CEO of XYZ company doesn't live a life that you morally oppose. You don't know that. And I believe that if a student is willing, if a student is sure that they oppose it enough, that they're going to be willing to check a box that says, I don't want my money going there. And I think that someone made the comment, I don't know what the comment was, but I don't think that we should ever underestimate human stupidity. I mean, there will be loopholes, there will be people that try to buck the system, or a group of people that don't ask enough questions. And for this reason, I think that putting a waiver in somehow, logistics we can figure out. We're adults, we can handle that. But I think by putting that step in, it's going to make the students that care enough about it act. And if they've got to show proof for a waiver committee, well, you know, if I'm vegan or if I'm whatever and I have to show proof, I feel like it's the same concept. And, I mean, as far as the whole document goes, or as far as the wording here, the stance is the same. The stance is students don't agree with this, we need to give them an option. But how big of an option you give them is what the question is here. Are we going to go radical and say anybody that doesn't like Chick-fil-A can say they don't like it? Well, I don't like Jasmine. Kick that out too. I'm just trying to keep that in perspective. And so by limiting this, it's easing some of the fears that people have, like, hey, we can't go too far with this. But at the same time, we are giving students that option. That's not negating student voice or student option at all. So just keep that in mind. It's been great. See you later.
This is Speaker Reeves' last meeting as Senate Speaker, so let's give her a hand. Jared, you have the floor.
All right, so I came up with the wording for this. There are lots of people about this amendment and want to talk about the whole issue altogether. And I'll just say this personally: I don't like the amendment, even though I'm the one that came up with the wording. I'm going to move the previous question so we can vote on this amendment and go back to the debate for the whole thing. Given that the list of names will stay the same when we exit this amendment, will the order stay the same?
We can arrange that.
Okay. Yes. So that's my complicated motion.
Okay. Well, then we'll move to the question. We're voting to vote on the amendment, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor of voting to vote on the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're voting now on this highlighted amendment the way it is. All in favor of the highlighted amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Do you want a roll call?
Hand.
Hands if you're in favor. Can someone else double check on that?
It passed.
20 passes.
How do you know I don't want to abstain?
Now, we're discussing the resolution as a whole, the way it's written on the screen. So, Allison, you have the floor. Paul?
I just want to say that on the resolution as a whole now, I don't know what waiver we're talking about and be a further result. Like, I just, it says have signed a waiver. What waiver? We haven't thought this out, and I don't like it. It makes no confidence. But I will say, overall, as far as the thing is concerned, I don't see what the big deal is. Because like we said, Chick-fil-A's money is not taken. We're doing nothing except to make sure the students' money is protected. And I don't know why students ever sign a waiver for that. But because I mean, if students want to fund Chick-fil-A, they can't say, oh, I want to fund money to Chick-fil-A. They don't gain anything out of that. But students who oppose it, on the other hand, lose something out of that. And asking them to, whatever.
Daniel?
I was just going to say, kind of reiterate what I think Megan was talking about. There's a term thrown around the law schools, and it's going around a term called overbreadth. And so, as it stands, I think the alternative is the declaration, the leftover student bill plan. That within itself probably goes too far because, say, like what Megan was saying, you have a student that likes Chick-fil-A. For some reason, they really like Chick-fil-A. But that person's money won't go to Chick-fil-A as it reads right now. And so, with the waiver language added into it, it narrows it. So it meets, I guess it meets its intended purpose, which is for a student that doesn't really want to give their money to Sodexo, which is fine. They don't have to give their money to Sodexo. But every other student that does want to give their money to Sodexo, for religious reasons or just because they like their chicken nugget meal, they have their Chick-fil-A, they're able to give it. So this right now, without this leftover student, that alternative stuff at the beginning, is probably the best way it can be worded to meet its intended purpose, which is to allow those students who don't want to not to pay into the fund.
Kim, did you have your hand up earlier?
Yeah, it was a question.
Travis?
So just kind of going further, a couple things. I just want to remind, I guess, the top four from what they said at Senator Creek, which is Sodexo is our customer, essentially, so we shouldn't be afraid to approach them with issues like this. Number two, worried so much about credibility with SGA, I'm going to share the secret that no one wants to talk about, so admin, put your earmuffs on, but UofL admin is forever, SGA is not. And so, in so many years, it can roll over. So if the administration really, really wants to push something or change something, you'll have a whole new set of officers in just 4 or 5 years in reality. So I wouldn't worry about that as much. I'd be more worried about the cause we're trying to stand up for, the difference we're trying to make. And, it might be the last stand at the Alamo, but it's, to me, it's a good cause, and to me, I think we have a practical